You will hear the pure, shocking, and mostly presently unwanted truth here tonight. Everything you hear tonight will fall on one of two wishes inside you. It will fall on your wish to understand what it's all about, or it will fall on your wish to remain the kind of a human being that you presently are. And may heaven have mercy on your soul if that is your choice. Because if you choose to reject the healing principles that you're going to hear tonight, I want to tell you what you have said. And you had better pay very close attention so you can indeed be shocked. You have said, I love being miserable. I love my tears. I love my frustration. I love my confusion. I love to find an enemy in the exterior world for whom I can blame for my problems and my stress. Will you please pause right where you are now and see the overwhelming horror of any human being who says precisely that, and you don't know it. You're sound asleep, every single one of you. You don't know that this is your choice up until now in your life. Shall I tell you something? I know it. I know what your choice is, because I know what your behavior is. I know how you thought today. I know the unseen feelings that went through you. Did you know? Are you acquainted in the slightest with yourself so that you can begin to examine and see all those dreadful little thieves that are running around inside your psychic system, running around draining you of energy, and every once in a while giving you a lollipop, which you lick contentedly like a little child. You know what I'm talking about? Someone says something nice to you. Or you've just seen an interesting movie on television or a sports event. And just for a very short period of time, life seems okay. Now let me tell you something very stark. It is not bad. It is not terrible. It is not awful for you to see your actual state as it is right here as you're seated here. It's not a bad thing. It's not bad for you to see you're bad. Bad meaning you're apart from reality. I'm not moralizing. We've got enough of that sickness in this world. I'm saying it's a good thing for you to see how desperate you actually are. I suggested a couple nights ago a very interesting technique, which I doubt which any of you will do, but it's called the mirror technique. And what it consists of is just carrying a little mirror around your pocket and at very odd times holding it up in front of your face and discovering from the expression on your face what kind of a man or a woman you really are. You think you're going to be nice and pleasant looking all the time if you do that? You're going to see some pretty dreadful things, aren't you? Now, you listen to me. You can do that psychologically. You can look at your expression now. Go ahead, do it now. What's the expression on your face? You can tell. All of you are pretty sober now. But you go out, and during the break, you'll laugh. Maybe you'll laugh mechanically because you think you're supposed to, or you smile because you want someone to think you're pleasant, something like that. Listen to this. One of the greatest events of your life is to see that you are a pure hypocrite. Any takers? for that kind of a marvel? Or do you wish to remain as you are, in division, always having to ask someone what to do, asking someone for their decision, for their approval? You poor, pathetic people. You don't know how pathetic you are going around asking someone else if you're okay. And there are a large classification of people who will tell you that you are if you give them something. Some are professionals who charge $80 an hour for telling you lies. You women give sex to men so that they'll like you. And they don't like you for giving them sex. They just use you, ladies. And you call that affection, and you call that love. You just want to be held. That man's going to betray you. Well, haven't they all? Well, hasn't your husband of 50 years betrayed you, some of you ladies? Shall I tell you how? You remember that 20-year-old boy you married? He's still 20. He's still 20 emotionally, spiritually, mentally. You ladies are just the same. There's no difference in the two of you. We're talking tonight about all forms of stress, which includes self-deception, which includes mental, spiritual immaturity. We're talking about stress, which is an unnecessary, unwanted, and uncaught condition inside of you. Now, look very carefully at the word uncaught. Doesn't stress bother you all day long? Let's get a few synonyms. Maybe we better broaden the picture a little bit. Stress, synonyms. Are you nervous? Of course you are. You're nervous all about life. You're nervous toward yourself. You wonder, for example, what enemy is going to come along and take away that little temporary advantage that you have. You've got your little corner somewhere where you're hiding out, and you've got your dinner, and you've got your TV set, and you wonder what intruder is going to come along. Let's see, could it be the government? Could it be higher taxes? Could it be higher food prices? Could it be the whim of someone who likes me one day but ignores me the next? How do you like being at the mercy of everyone and everything outside you? Don't you think it would be a pretty good idea for you to change whom you adore? Now, let me explain that. You want something from this world. What do you want? You want a position in it. You want a big career out in front of you where you're going to make a lot of money. Are you ladies, you want to settle down in what you call a nice little comfortable home with a husband coming home and crabbing usually. These are the things you want in this world. Now, I'm going to ask you a very important question. Are you seated there telling me that you're going to spend the few years of your life here on earth satisfied with a home that you're no longer going to inhabit one day, with a Cadillac that you'll no longer drive one day, with a bank account that you can't cash a check on anymore, with all that so-called love and all that sex that you're getting out? Are you telling me that are you telling me the incredible fact that you are settling for that? There must be something wrong with your mind, and there is. Now, I'll tell you what the problem is. The problem is you haven't caught the stowaway inside your own system. Imagine on a big ocean liner. You know, one of these big things that they used to have, they don't have them so much anymore, do they? Big, long. United States or Spirit of France or whatever that goes all over the world. Thousands of passengers. And on this boat, there's an officer who is under the captain, major officer of some kind under the captain, but there's something wrong with him. He has ambitions. He wants to be the captain, and so he begins to plot to overthrow the captain of the boat and take over. I'm giving you an illustration. Listen to it and you'll see how it connects with your life. So the boat sails around, but the officer rather, is very treacherous. And he plots to overthrow the captain and take over the boat for himself. The captain catches him. See, the captain of this particular boat is very alert. He can see things. He can catch things instantly when they come up. So he fires the officer. I hope you're following the parallel of this. So the officer is a very evil human being, and he says to himself in his deviltry, I know what I'll do. I'll get revenge. I know what I'll do. I'll get my kicks out of hurting other people and therefore feeling like somebody, feeling superior, feeling powerful, feeling as if I have authority under myself. So here's what the officer does. He becomes a stowaway on the boat he used to be an officer of, and knowing the boat, understanding all the little places where he can hide, he sails with the boat wherever it goes, and he does all sorts of damaging things to it. He tampers with the compass so that the boat goes in the wrong direction. He tampers with the steering devices so it doesn't work effectively, and he throws the food and the medicine overboard. Does all sorts of things to injure the boat and its crew and passengers. The captain catches him, the captain being smarter than the officer, catches him and dismisses him, and the damage ends. Did it ever occur to any of you that you have a stowaway who doesn't belong there in your life? Something, logic, listen to this logic, listen to this reason. Something must be causing the damage. And unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, the captain is asleep. We're here tonight to show you how to wake him up. The captain being a certain part of you that wishes the truth to fall on the right place, where it can begin to detect, to see, to catch all these little things that you now take as pleasures, this snapping at someone. Come on, real honest now. Let's see hands. How many of you here get a thrill to have power over someone else? You can all raise your hand. How many of you get a thrill when you can hurt someone else? And I want you to know that every human being practically on the face of this earth is dominated by a stowaway which is called revenge. And I better give you a little side lecture on this main lecture. If you ever want to destroy yourself completely, if you want to ruin your chances for having something beyond this present life, you just go ahead and cherish revenge in any form whatever. The physical act of it. You ever committed revenge on someone? Anyone ever committed it against you? You know what it is. I'm not talking about that because revenge is very limited in scope because, well, there's just a limited opportunity for the physical expression of it. How about revengeful thoughts? How about wishing something bad would happen to your worst enemy, something like that? I want you from this day forward to be very much aware of that particular stowaway, so you can see what it is doing against you. How many of you hate anyone? Raise your hands on that. How many of you are angry at someone? You know that. Don't you see what you're doing against yourself? And the reason you do that is because you take a very, very strange pleasure in having these negative thoughts because they give you a fiery feeling which you call life and which makes you very excited and which you say, at last I know who I am. I'm a very angry person who even has the power to take revenge. And watch how you run mental movies through your mind in which you're getting the best of the boss, huh? You have an argument with your wife or with your husband, and you run these malicious thoughts through your mind. I want to tell you one of the most beautiful things that can ever happen to you. You may never have heard this before, so you listen carefully now. Your mental television set is on 24 hours a day, even while you're asleep. How many have nightmares, bad dreams, turn and toss, and it scares you, doesn't it? And you wake up, you even wake up scared. And you even wake up scared because you say, is that what inhabited me? Yes, it was. It was there, wasn't it? So it even torments you at night. There is a way in which you can begin to turn off the mental movies, the horror show, which continually dominates your mind, and which, unfortunately, you simply don't see because you haven't had the, now listen to this, not the daily practice and not the monthly practice, but the year after year after year practice of throwing your attention back to your own mind, your own whole system, so that you can detect and catch instantly when the dark forces inside of you start the reel going of that horror movie of Dracula or Frankenstein or whatever. Starts that horror movie, in which, of course, you are the marvelous hero of it. The time will come when you'll be able to see the dark forces turn the switch on and begin to unreel the movie, and you say no. You say no because you know at last what these horror films of your revengeful thoughts and of your self-pity, you have seen what they have done to you, and you say to this stowaway or to that stowaway, which you as the captain, being a self-aware person, you as the captain say, you have done enough sabotage to this ship. You're not going to do it anymore. I've caught you, and you are out. See, all this is, to all of you now in this room, let me tell you what it is. It is information, but it is not alive in you. It's not working in you. And you're going to, unfortunately, let me tell you what's going to happen to you when you go out of here. You're going to walk out of here asleep because you didn't permit these truths to fall on the part of you that said, as hard as it is on my familiar ways, on my vanity, as hard as it is, I'm going to listen to these truths and let them do something for me because I'm completely incapable of saving myself. As long as you think, as long as you believe, as long as you have any idea at all that you can do something for yourself, you're going to remain exactly as you are, because this is egotism trying to rescue egotism, and nothing changes, nothing ever happens. You refuse to be humiliated, which is why you stay as you are, which is why you prefer to lead a dark, miserable life. I'm describing it. Come on, you know I'm describing your life. You men, you're so angry and frustrated because you can't present toward your wife or toward your parents or toward your children or toward your neighbors, because you can't present toward them the picture of you being a more successful man. You do some menial task, what you call menial, and you envy the man who's a big-time lawyer, a big-time doctor or whatever. And you don't have an ounce of sense to see that they are just as miserable as you are and envy someone else. There's a very unfortunate stowaway within human beings, which is called comparison. And if you can throw that one out, you would also throw out about 10,000 other ones, which are now nagging at you. Oh, that she's prettier than I am. He's nicer looking than I am. He has a nicer personality. Or she has a nicer looking husband and a nicer looking bank account, or whatever it might be. Let's see how much you can understand. You can have no money. You can have no friends. And you can have no relatives, which is a pretty nice thing. And you can have no prospects for the future. And you have no one to come around and say, I like you. You can be completely alone in this world and be a purely happy, decent, good, victorious man or woman. Why don't you let that knock the props out from all your striving? What do you want? What did you come here hoping to get? What do you want that's not worth wanting? Can't you see that everything you need has already been provided? If you don't see that, then you're an atheist. Don't try to believe in God with your usual mind. Try to see your wants and try to see your desires and try to see that they are your gods themselves. Let them go and see what comes in their place, and you'll understand perfectly. Oh yes, and you will understand forever and forever something that is so difficult for you to now see, which is that you don't have to be anyone at all. You don't even have to be what you call loved. You have never ever been loved in your life, not by your parents, not by the preacher, not by anyone. Shall I tell you why? Because there's no love inside an empty human being. Oh, they talked about it, and they sang religious hymns about love, but they didn't know what it was. You've never been loved. You've never been loved by anyone because you went to the wrong place. You want to start understanding what it means to be loved in a much, much higher way? You yield all your nonsense, all your words, all your attachments, all your beliefs, all your faiths, all your lies. You yield that up and let it go, not knowing what is going to happen to you, and you will know what love is. Love is the complete absence of wanting anything from anyone. Which doesn't mean you don't have social relations. We're social here right now, are we not? Well, you men look around the room and you say, I wish I could have that pretty girl over there. You women look around, you wish you could have a pretty dress like that. Look what you're doing. You're praying to a piece of cloth or to a human being. And that's exactly what you might get, and when you get it, you won't know what to do with it. You'll feel just as empty as you were before. What we're trying to say is this. You've been going at it all the wrong way. Oh, very simple. Two fingers here. There's the right way, and there's the wrong way. You know the wrong way. Now we'll teach you the right way. You want the right way, or do you want to hang on the wrong way? Don't you try to find any third item there. One of the two. Make your choice. And everything inside of you that's wrong is going to say, choose me, or something bad will happen to you. Is there one person in this room who doesn't see that your life is horribly bad as it is right now as you're seated here? Now don't you lie. Don't you kid yourself. Any of you get mad? Have any of you been mad during the talk so far? Been angry, frustrated? All that is simply a reaction of your old nature, which, if you will simply observe it, catch it, be the captain who catches that kind of stowaway, eventually it fall away and lose its power. Before we stop, in just a few minutes now, and we'll have a question period later on, I want to give you an exercise. The most valuable exercise you'll ever be given in your life. Never mind yogi exercise and stuff like that. This will do something for you that they won't. All you get is strained legs sitting that way. And also a very strained brain. And you must have a strained brain to do it in the first place, because you're choosing the physical thinking that it's spiritual. Anyway, listen to the following phrase, and then I'll explain it to you in some detail. Know what you are doing at the moment you are doing it. Any of you ladies have man trouble? Don't. If any of you ladies have man trouble, I'll tell you what to do. Know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. And if you men fear the financial future, your financial future, you're afraid you're going to be a flop. Know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. That's the answer. That's the solution. So, how many have any problem at all? Any problem, whatever, any kind, whatever. You can all raise your hand. You're a mass of troubles. You only have one. You're one mass of problems and contradictions and know-it-alls, aren't you? For every single problem you have, know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. That will solve every problem you have, and here's why. Knowing what you're doing at the moment you're doing it, well, do it now. Look at yourself. Where are your hands? What's the expression on your face? What's going on inside of your mind? Come on. What are you thinking? And if you're really aware, by the way, it will stop instantly, but that's another story. What have you been thinking about while we've been here so far? Know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it. Now, turn your attention back on yourself and notice, first of all, your physical self. Are you slouched over like that? Simply notice your position. Is your jaw tense? Are you chewing gum? What are you doing? Notice what you're doing right now. See it. Now, the easy part is the physical, of course. You can see that you're seated like that and going like that. You think that's easy? Try doing it tomorrow. Go like that and know you're doing that anytime. Are you a little itch? Going to do that? Oh, just put my hand up there. You'll find that you'll say, I'm going to do it, and you'll do it all day long, and you won't notice it, right? In summary, and this is a long, long topic in itself, this begins to break the power of the intellect, of ideas, of ordinary thought over your life. You are now dominated by unconscious thinking. And when you notice what you are doing, that very awareness of it begins to weaken and finally cuts it out of your life altogether. If you've got some little nervous habit that you're always doing, and most people have them, don't they? They're always going like that, or going like that, going like that, or something like that. If you become aware, you see, when someone else calls them to your attention, they can see them and you can't, right? And of course, we get mad very often when someone says we have that annoying little habit. Oh, I don't do that, and then you go ahead and do that. And you don't even see it. The point is, sooner or later, well, let's make that later, you will begin to understand that how's this for an identification, a label? You begin to see that you're nothing but a mechanical little machine. Well, can someone press a button somewhere and you get mad? Just like a machine suddenly starts to churn when you press a button somewhere down at the factory? Of course. If you know what you're doing at the moment you're doing it, you eventually start with the physical, you go to the emotions, and you go to your mind, you go to your thoughts, and that is the captain that tosses all those thousands of stowaways off the ship so that you begin to go on a straight course and a proper course for the rest of your life. How many of you would say you have a heavy spirit? Sad. You can all raise your hand on that. You will know what it means to have a light spirit, a cheerful spirit, not phonily cheerful, where you put on your broad smile for public impressions and effect, but simply because you're smiling inside. And you're smiling inside not because you have something, but because you have nothing outside of truth itself. Oh, will you smile? Oh, will you be happy? See, when you're untouchable by this world, you're automatically happy because you're untouchable. It can't do a thing to you. Nobody can take anything away from you. They can't do anything against you. You're free because you're living in the spirit of truth, which itself is free. You can walk right through this mad lunatic world and they can't touch you at all. Now, the question is that what you want? Or do you want to go out of here and go back to your same pretenses and your continued boiling and suppression? You get a lot of boiling people here tonight, haven't we? You know that. Oh, you boil, don't you? Something goes wrong. You feel cheated by life. All this is called unconscious self-torment, and if that's what you want, then you don't belong in these lectures at all. You belong right with other people like you are, so that you can continue to destroy each other and drag each other even deeper down into hell than you already are, if that's what you choose. These are the stupid people. There's no hope for them. Don't have anything to do with them. And the way you do that, not having anything to do with them, is to not have anything to do with the same criminality inside yourself. You see, criminals love criminals, and true people love true people. You begin to love what's true in you, and you will wonder how you ever tolerated those obnoxious, drunken, foul-mouthed friends of yours all these years. And you'll say, I must have been mad. And the answer is, yes, you were. But now you're becoming sane, and now you're becoming decent. The lady, please.
I understand you to say that after a while, you're not supposed to feel anything for anybody, just how to be stoic. Is that what you mean?
Repeat that last, please.
Do I understand you to say that after a while you don't feel anything for anyone, you just become stoic?
Now, you may sit down if you wish. You see, why do you think that way? Why do you think in opposites like that? Who ever said you're to be a stoic? That's neurosis, to be stoic. Now, why do you think in opposites? I'll tell you why. Because your mind works in opposites. Now, there is a position which is above what you call stoicism and your false love. There is a position which is called true love, and the reason it is true love because your human, distorted, wrong intellect is not in it. Because you are not in it. Now, don't you dare ever think that you have love of yourself. Don't you ever say, I love my child, I love my wife, I love my husband. You know what you're doing when you say that? You're saying that I of myself have the power to originate and express love. And you remember this, I said it earlier, I'm going to repeat it, and you are an atheist. Now look, don't get religious, get spiritual. There's one power on earth that is loving, and that is God. That is reality, that is truth. It is not you. And I'll tell you something about yourself when you love. When you think you love, you hate. Have you watched the news lately of all these people who love their country so much that they want to kill everybody in the next country?
Yes.
Have you ever known anyone who said they loved God so much that they had to go out and persecute everyone who didn't, and even murder the people who didn't believe as they did? You know what it's all about. Now look, it's very easy to see it socially out there. How about seeing it in yourself? You know, one of the best ways to expose hatred in an individual is to tell them that they don't have any love at all in them. And we have seen this over the years more times than I can count, where I mention, you don't have any love in you at all you have is hatred. And they feel as if I'm stealing something from them. Now, if you want to be loving, here's how to do it. Get rid of yourself as you now know yourself. Where it is not your love, but the love of truth itself that is expressing itself through you. And that is not religious talk. That is something you can experience for yourself. Remember I said earlier something like that love and true compassion is the absence of yourself. That's the same thing as the absence of your vanity. Next, please, the gentleman there.
When a person has a feeling that they love another person, is that false?
Oh, well, let's get a little more definite. Who do you love?
No.
Some love affair, huh?
The feeling that triggers a person to want to say what that woman was expressing, is that a false feeling?
A man doesn't love a woman, he wants sex from her. Next question. The gentleman there.
Are you saying that love does not exist? The man asked if you're saying, are you saying that love doesn't exist?
Doesn't exist for you. If you ask that question. No, you've had one. You have a hostile spirit besides.
You said at the meeting this afternoon that to get rid of all the tears, that will take you down into hell. Can you go into that a little bit?
Oh, shall we take it away from them too? Let's do it a little different, shall we? How many of you people just love to cry? How many of you cry? Well, let's sneak up on you. How many of you cry a lot? Well, how many of you men cry too, and you, of course, hide it a little better? Why do you cry at all? Now, if you tell the truth about the reason you cry, you're going to expose yourself as an egotist, as a self-centered, little self-centered human being who has no strength except that of your ego, and when it breaks down, it starts to cry. You don't know what to do, and so you break down. Why do you think, you ever seen watch a small child, he can't have the piece of candy. You say, no, you can't have the candy, you had 10 pieces already, and he starts to get mad and cry. Why does he cry? Because he can't reason, he can't think things out. He can't even think, I already had 10 pieces, I better not have 11 pieces. You want something and you don't get it, and you're like that little kid, you can't have that piece of candy, and the only reaction you know is to cry, and which is an admission. Do you know what crying is? You think of this the next time you bawl. It's an admission of stupidity. And a sane, whole human being has no need to cry over anything. Look at it from that viewpoint. And the next time you cry, you just look at yourself and see that you're crying like a little tiny child who can't get the sweets that he wants. And this cruel, cruel world is denying you the promotion or whatever you want. And see that you're simply feeling sorry for yourself, and your whole world is revolving around your false sense of self.
I try to remember one thing you told me once, Vernon, that if I'm ever mad, I am wrong.
Did you hear what he said? If you are mad, you are wrong. Right? Is there anyone who wants to argue about that? You will argue with yourself. This is pretty overwhelming, isn't it? About knocks you off the chairs, doesn't it? Now let me tell you a sad story. You. The sad story is that you're going to go out of here, out of this healthy, protective, safe atmosphere that you're in now in this room. You're going to go out of here, and when you step out that door, you're going to go to sleep, and all the dark forces that had you before you came in are going to attack you, and you're going to fall asleep again, and they're going to take you over. Stay awake. And if you don't know what that means, have the intelligence come back and back and back until you do. You are all sound asleep, and you don't even know what that means. You're so asleep. Shall I define it briefly? If you have hostility in you, you're sound asleep, self-defeating. If you have tears in you, potential tears in you, you're sound asleep, absolutely asleep. If you fear anything at all, even your own present nature, if you fear that, you're sound asleep. You see, when you wake up, that means you rise above your present nature, your present confinement in your old neurotic sick self. You rise above that. Then how can there be fear? Can you imagine truth being afraid? See? One fear you have is the fear of being exposed as a fake. And do you know who's afraid? The fakery itself. Because it's tyrannized your life all these years, and it doesn't want to give you up. We'll teach you how to get rid of the tyranny that's been making you so miserable, and make you argue and fight against truth, and make you a wise guy, and make you obnoxious. We'll teach you how to be a nice, pleasant human being. So pleasant that it is a pleasure to live with yourself from now on instead of a torment, which it now is, and you know it, and I know it. Hands, please, if you have any. We'll have a couple more. This gentleman here.
Yeah, when you were talking about dreams, I'm not sure if I understood correctly, but you said you had nightmares or bad dreams. Were you saying we should try to shut those out?
They will, bad dreams and nightmares will fall away automatically like everything else that's wrong for you as you do begin to awaken, because they're running through in the night what goes on through your mind, but you don't see them because you're too busy eating food or making money or something like that. They'll fall away of themselves. You'll wake up and you'll be quite aware that you didn't have a single dream that one night. But don't be too confident. The next night you'll have a horrible Dracula-like nightmare. But you'll have lapses between the strength of them. Go ahead, one more, please. Go ahead, sorry.
Those type of dreams, to me, are something from the unconscious coming up, trying to say something. By shutting those off.
I understand. Please. What your dreams are trying to tell you is that you're a nut. Someone. The gentleman.
I've heard you say before that you can understand your mind out of existence. Is it a mistake to try to stop the noise, or should we try to just observe it? What's the proper function?
I missed the first part. Say it, please.
I've heard you say that you can understand the mind out of existence. Should we try to stop it? And then did you hear the rest of the comment?
Mind out of distance, what?
That we can understand our mind out of existence.
Oh, out of existence. You don't understand your mind out of existence. You understand the sickness of it out of existence. How many of you have a mad mind? Well, let's start right where we are. How many of you have a mad mind? How many have been trying to change it by yourself? Now, how can a madman kick out a madman? See, no one... Look, do you know how profound that was? Not my profundity, but the profundity of truth itself. How can a madman kick out a madman? How can one lunatic in the insane asylum heal another lunatic in there? You know, they give each other theory and they give each other therapy, and they drive each other even crazier than they were before. This is what you're doing with yourself. Two nuts inside the lunatic asylum talking to each other all day long. How many of you talk to yourself all day long? Pretty idiotic conversation, right? Aren't you tired of it? If you are sufficiently tired of it, something outside of you will happen. Something outside of you will come to you and make things happen inside of you. And you'll wonder how you could have been so foolish. So let's say a year from now, even that much, you can make a little progress. Say you're here at this meeting tonight. A year from now, you work hard and you come back to another meeting and you see everything in an entirely different light. You sit there and you kind of smile a little bit tolerantly at yourself and wonder how you could have been so foolish, so idiotic, how the little egotist in you just wanted to argue and show how much smarter you were than the speaker or whatever. Smarter than God himself, yes, because your egotism has set itself up as its a part God. That is the God that you worship, which is self-worship, which is yourself, which is insanity. Would you raise your hand, please? You're on, gentlemen. This gentleman here.
It's odd how things happen by accident, and we want to take credit for it.
Oh, yes. You accidentally become rich or famous, and you think that you did it, which, of course, builds the assumption that there is a central you there who is an independent entity, who can change things, who can do things, who can accomplish things. And, of course, these are only the successes is what you take credit for, right? If something goes wrong, then it's someone else's fault, never your own fault, isn't it? See how completely deceitful we are, how we choose always according to vanity, always, never any other way, which is destruction. Now look, there are a lot of you people here in this room who aren't very bright. And I'm going to tell you just one of the ways in which you're not very bright. You think that thrills to your vanity are good for you. They are the worst possible thing that could happen to you. Because they keep you, simply to put it very right to the point, they keep you in delusion about all of life. What are you doing here on earth with your life? You are not supposed to be here to feed your sick vanity. Now look, this is the way the world lives. Now you tell me how the world lives. Look at the social picture first. The crimes, you can't even live in your own home safely anymore. It's got so bad. Wars, everybody's screaming around like an idiot with signs in other countries and even here. Society is completely mad. Now, what are you like? What is your life like? It is not supposed to continue the way it is up till now. And you're here today, I hope, to try to see the mistake you're making. The mistake you're making is following the dictations of the world. And the reason you do that is because the world is in you very, very deeply and very strongly. Now I'll show you how stupid people are. When you tell a human being the facts, and I've just given you a few in just a few seconds, when you tell a human being the facts about his or her life, look at this, how's this for stupidity? The only answer they know is to get hostile. The only answer they know is to sneer, to run away, to attack the very truth that could save them from their own idiocy. The whole world is lunatic. Now, if you don't see that, it is because you are still a lunatic yourself, calling yourself sane. You are not sane. It is not sane to be sick. It's not sane. It's not sane to be unhappy. You're depressed. You're gloomy. You're morose. That's a sign of insanity. What do you think insanity is? A sane man is a free man. A sane woman is a happy woman. Free from all the sickness that was imposed on you by society. After today, all of you in this room no longer have any excuse for being miserable. You've excused it up to now, but I'm here to tell you, you can't blame anyone but yourself from now on for your unhappiness. I don't care what it is. Fighting with your boyfriend, it makes no difference what it is. Fear of the future, fear of what's going to become of you. All that. There is no need to be afraid of anything. That was a long answer to a short question, wasn't it?
Most of these principles are very difficult for us to understand. If I should begin to understand these, what or who is understanding?
Let's change that a little bit. You're trying to put your interpretation on the facts that you get here, and your interpretation will always be according to what you think is safe for you, for your name, for your little world in itself. You think that is what's going to make that safe, but it doesn't make it safe. It makes it more sick than before, because every time you twist truth for your own vanity's sake, it gives you a very odd little thrill, and that pretty soon, after a while, that odd little thrill becomes a source of nourishment to your vanity, to your egotism, so that you keep saying more, 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 until you end up in a physical nut house, or you die of alcoholism or whatever, until you've simply wrecked your whole life. A principal rule: when you can take the truth and see that it hurts, and listen, see if you can understand this, because it's something you've never done before, so it's not easy to understand. The next time you're told the truth about yourself, see if you can just let it pain so bad that there's nothing there but pain. See, what do you do now when you're told the truth about yourself? You want to strike back, don't you? You want to hate somebody for telling you. You want to get up and walk out of the hall. And by the way, anyone who walks out of here is a devil. I'm telling you, that's a fact. Any human being who comes in here and hears this pure truth and walks out is a devil who doesn't want to hear the truth. I don't care what sick label you give yourself. Some of you so-called born-again Christians, for example, you are a devil. And you're burning in hell at the very moment you're seated here listening to these truths. Now, if you can see this, how you have nothing but hatred in you, you have a chance to be saved in the real way. Next hand, please. This gentleman.
What can a true teacher do for his student?
What? Say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't give you a chance.
What can a true teacher do for a student?
He can tell him the truth. Now leave it there. I'm not trying to be clever. Leave it there. He can tell him the truth. What are you going to do with it? The gentleman over there.
I've been married for over 41 years, and I've had very little success in getting my wife to wear a dress. Problem there. Can you help me?
I definitely want to hear that one repeated.
I've been married. I'm speaking about this gentleman. He's been married. The gentleman's been married for 41 years, and he's had trouble over those 41 years getting his wife to wear a dress. And it's very meaningful to him that she do that, particularly at certain occasions. What can I do?
I'll tell you what you can do. You can see that's your own fault. You want to go into that a little bit? Listen to me, gentlemen. Listen, that woman really wants to wear a dress because that is an outward sign of her femininity, which is right. Gentlemen, how many of you men have girlfriends, wives, so on? Let's see your hands. How many of you are looking for one? How many of you came here looking for one? Gentlemen, the thing you must do is to absorb these teachings. Let them take over your whole life so that you are a 100% male, 100% man. That woman has been waiting for that all her life. She's just been waiting for a man who's such a man, he'll tell her, you be a woman or else. And the or else is, you're not going to have me as a man if you want to be a real woman, because the two don't go together. All you men, everyone, not this gentleman, I'm talking to all of it, you're all weaklings. You know, you settle, look, you meet the woman and you want certain things from her. And the first is sex, of course, and then more of that. You want sex, you know that. Don't kid me. You want that. And so you look at her and you say, in order to get sex, in order to get companionship, someone to watch the ball game with me, or whatever you want from me, I know that she wants certain things from me. In order to get what I want from her, I will compromise. I'll let her wear boots and cigars if she wants to. She can do anything as long as she gives me what I want. Gentlemen, because you have failed yourself, you have failed her. Because you have failed as a male, as a man, you have failed her. You have not permitted her to be the kind of a woman that she wants to be. That woman, you weaklings, I can't believe it. Yes, I can. I see it all the time. You women want that man to be a real man. And you're going to, listen to what they do, gentlemen. They argue with you, they fight, they scream, and they pray to heaven that they lose the argument. They pray to heaven that you're not going to fall for it and compromise. Not just going to be cruel, we're not talking about that, domination or anything like that. Absolutely 100% true to truth. Now, if that woman really wants truth herself, she will thank heaven for you and for the way she behaved. If she doesn't, then that's nothing to do with a man. He has to put his truth first, regardless of whether she wants it or not. Hands, please. Yes.
I think clothes is only a mere exterior. I feel that it has very little to do with femininity or how we are. I think a girl can look very sexy in man. So what difference is it?
No, please don't give a speech. Ask a question.
The lady asked, or made a statement and then a question. She says that I believe that exterior clothes make no difference whatsoever, and that a woman can look very sexy in a slack suit.
Well, you just listen to me. Now, please, some of you are so idiotic that you think you know what you're talking about. And what you know is your own eagerness to prove your point, to prove that someone else is wrong. Now, listen to me. You are all so badly off that you can only be given kindergarten lessons in spirituality. Now, if you will all look around the room, you will see that all the ladies from Boulder City and the ladies who have the classes, come to the class down here, have a flower in their hair. Now, why do you suppose that is a rule? This is my rule. Ladies, you will wear either a flower or you wear a ribbon in your hair. Because, you see, these women, the world is going so crazy, they don't quite know whether they're a man or a woman. Look out in the street and see if you can tell the difference in half of them half the time. This is the bare beginning. I know that's a physical thing. You put a flower in your hair, a lady looks at you, hey, you know, that's kind of nice. See, flowers are symbolic of femininity, are they not? They're soft and pretty, and that's what all women are. They put a flower in their hair, and they begin to get the idea. You see, that's just the bare beginning. That's just the idea of being feminine. You're supposed to be 100% feminine, not 80% or 90%. Just as I told you, a man should be 100% masculine. So this is the beginning. And after a while, hey, that's nice that's giving me just the beginning of a feeling to be like a woman. Now, you'll get that confusion out of your mind, which you are. That is a part of developing your naturalness. God made you either a man or a woman, nothing halfway in between. If you're halfway in between, you're in a horrible state. You'll have to get rid of that before you can even begin to be spiritual. So these are symbolic things and yet very, very practical. The gentleman way back there.
I see, like you say, that I think of myself all day long. What is the difference between thinking of myself and observing or watching myself?
The gentleman says that he sees that he thinks about himself all day. He'd like to know what's the difference between thinking about myself and observing myself.
When you don't react to what you see, that is observation. That is pure observation. When you look at yourself and you see something you either like or don't like, you have a certain reaction to that, don't you? You say, oh, that was a very witty remark I made, therefore I must be very clever. So you saw the remark and you centered it back on yourself and patted yourself on the back. Now you have increased your self-centeredness. Or you do something stupid, foolish or whatever, and then you condemn yourself for it. You must be able to see what goes on inside of you simply as a movement, as a piece of moving energy, so to speak. See it as something apart from you, because you are nothing at all like you think you are. You're not your virtues and you're not your vices. So it all depends on whether you refer what you see back to yourself or not. And what you can do is just stand back and watch things go on and know that you have nothing really, in reality, you understand, to do with that. But you want to believe in it, and the whole world wants to believe in good and bad selves. They work in opposites like that. The whole world wants to believe in it simply because the individual does not want to explore truth and find out who he really is. And very few human beings are going to make it, by the way. Please raise your hand only for one question. If you've raised it once, don't raise it the second time. The gentleman there.
What is the truth and how do you know when you got it?
The gentleman asked, what is the truth and how do you know when you have it?
The truth is the absence of your egotism. And you will know it when you have it. You will know it from yourself. Now you see, you are seated out there now listening to me, correct? Now, if you don't know whether I'm telling you the truth or not, do you know what that is? That means that you don't know the truth. I am telling you that I'm telling you the pure truth. Now, if you want to find out for yourself whether I'm doing that or not, there's only one way you can do it, and that is for you to find the truth for yourself. Now, here's another point. If any of you out there have been stirred up, you're a little disturbed, angry, upset, whatever, why don't you look at that and say, now wait a minute. I'm angry and hostile and resentful and antagonistic toward what that man up on the table said. I am hostile toward what he said. Now, wait a minute. Hostility. Now, is hostility a virtue or is it a vice? Put it another way. Is anger, hatred, and hostility a good thing for me, or is it a bad thing for me? Oh, wait a minute. All my life I've been angry and hateful and said that was good because I get so excited over it. But wait a minute. If I am, how can anger ever be right? Now look how simply, directly I have put that to you. And you know what? You're going to go out and be just as angry, as hateful as you were before until you understand the whole business of what you were doing against yourself, thinking that you're doing it for yourself. You attack truth. Man, woman, are you in trouble? And guess who you're in trouble with? You know the answer to that. I'll give you another little clue. I think this is the second or third time I've recommended this in the series of talk. Carry a little mirror with you in your pocket up here. And at unexpected times, hold that little mirror up in front of your face. And you tell me what kind of a human being you're looking at. You try to lie out of that now. See, you won't do it because you feel you're being drawn into a trap. Why don't you let yourself be drawn into the trap? Next time you're hateful and angry and self-righteous and you know everything and nobody else knows anything, you hold the mirror up. Well, that's a man of hatred, not love. I call myself loving and how can love have that violent, contorted features that I have? Let me tell you, one human being in a million will ever do that, which is why one human being in a million ever sets himself free of himself. Hands, please. The gentleman here.
What does it mean when we feel stress?
The man asked, what does it mean when we feel stress?
It means you're living a life that is a lie. That is, you're living a life that is apart from reality, apart from truth, apart from the principles of true spiritual principles. When you begin to get onto these things, if you were to apply yourself very vigorously to them, little by little you would see your tension fall away. You see yourself meeting life. I don't care what it is, whether you get fired or don't get the raise or whatever, you'd see yourself meeting life with an entirely different nature. That is the stress beginning to fall away from you. Because there's no central egotist with its demands there who says you have to do what I want you to do. Look, isn't it idiotic? Look, 4 billion idiots on earth, every one of them thinking that their demands are the only ones that are right. And everyone looks at the other person and said, I'm right and you're wrong, and everybody kills each other in wars and revolutions, or they commit murder in their hearts. You ever committed murder in your heart? You know very well you have. And guess who you murdered besides that other person? Yourself. Is there anyone in this room who thinks that hatred is good? Try to get out of that. Now what you'll try to get out of is saying that it's hatred in you. You'll call it something else. You'll call it powerful convictions of rightness. You'll lie, and you'll lie yourself all the way to the end. How pathetic when you could have had the truth. We'll try a little more, then we'll have a little break. Let's see, the gentleman back there, then front.
What prevents us from being shocked by how bad it really is inside of us?
What prevents us from being shocked from seeing how bad it is inside of us?
Because you get stuck with the shock, which is a marvelous contribution to egotism. Egotism lives by shocks taken in the wrong way. When someone insults you or something bad happens to you, you go like that, you go like that. And when you go like that, egotism seizes that shock and says, how marvelous! Look what is happening to me! Everyone is against me! Isn't that marvelous? See? We're teaching you here to take shocks in a new way, a way which will destroy them instead of feeding them. Isn't that marvelous?
Yes.
The gentleman in front of, yes.
Yes, the experience of anger. I had a hard time with that all my life, and all of a sudden I'm experiencing anger now, and I don't see it as a negative. I see it more as a learning.
Okay, he'll repeat it.
The gentleman said something like, all of his life he's had a problem with anger, and just recently he seems to be experiencing it more, but he doesn't see it as something necessarily negative, more as a learning experience.
You're saying anger is a learning experience. It can only be a learning experience if you see yourself as anger and don't identify with it. Identification with anger simply means that you think you are that wrong, that heavy emotion, and that gives you a thrill because it gives you a sense of separation. Let me go back a little bit. This is very complex. This is why you have to come to every class. We're born into this world with an undeveloped mind. Little children grow up and all they do is get an education and earning a living and things like that. But their mind doesn't go above to spiritual things. And a mind that doesn't develop to spiritual things immediately begins to think that it is a God unto itself. Everyone, as I just said, everyone has to behave the way I want them to. Look at little kids. Aren't they obnoxious at times, always their demands? Of course they are. And so it starts off very early, and then it grows up, and we cover it up with smiles and with cunning deceptions to get what we want from other people. The greatest delusion of any human being is to believe that he is apart from the all, capital A, of life. Now, practically every human being on earth believes that, every one of them. But they say the opposite. They say, oh, I'm just one of the people and I love everybody in life. But secretly, in their hearts, everybody believes that they are separate, independent. And this is the cause of every human problem, social and personal. Because we fight outwardly and you fight with yourself. Through higher truth, through these teachings, you will see that you are not, but best of all, don't have to be a person apart from the all of life. Therefore, there's no one to compete with anyone. There's no one here who has to fight with anyone or anything out there. Can you imagine a person to Christ? Can you imagine Christ being angry in the wrong way? Can you imagine Christ arguing over who's going to get to give the talk one night or something like that? When you grow up spiritually, what you really do is just sit back and relax and let the stupid world go by while you remain a sane, decent human being who has achieved his purpose for being here on earth, which was to develop from the small little egotistical child that he was born into this world with. All right, we'll stop there. Take a break and we'll come back. We'll have more. Astonishingly brilliant method for changing everything. That is, if you really want to change everything. Now, just saying you want a different kind of a life isn't enough. What you may mean when you say you want a different kind of a life is that you want more money or you want to get your way, whatever your idea of a better life is. Now, you have no idea of what a better life is from your intellect because it always lies to you and tells you that it needs more material things or ego victories or whatever. Listen to this purely spiritual technique I'm now going to give you in just 4 words. Listen to it. And you write it down and you think about it for not months, but for years. Here it is. Snap out of it. Oh, snap out of what? Of your entire way of living, that's what. Please, don't you go another day loving what you now are, or you will be permanently sunk. This is the place right now, this afternoon, to call a halt to the downhill plunge. Now look, you're not going to get away with it. You think that you're going to make it easier on yourself by telling yourself that it's going to be better someday? That something is going to come along, some nice man is going to come along and take care of you, or you're going to get a nice woman, and you're going to have a nice little comfortable life. You've had a lot of those things already, haven't you? And you're so lonely and you're so scared. So it's quite necessary for you to begin to begin to think about your thinking. Just make an examination of what goes on inside your mind. And to make an examination with the determination, with the motive of doing one thing only, not of changing anything, but of understanding what is there. Because if you understand what is there and really see it, you won't want anything to do with yourself as you now know yourself anymore. You'll say, this is as far as I'm going in self-destruction, because you now recognize it as that. Again, now, the gentleman said he couldn't see anger as self-destructive. Well, you don't know how badly you need to come to these L.A. classes, for example. You don't know how desperately you need them in order to understand. Can't you even see it physically? What does it do to your body? What it does to your body is nothing compared to what it does to your spirit. When you're mad, you're angry, well, look at yourself. Look at the tight muscles, look at the hands, look at the flashing eyes. Look at all the things you do to your blood pressure. If you can just begin to see how it happens to you physically that way, you could also go on to the spiritual and see that you're doing something horribly against the life that you now have, that you can do something to change. You tell people about these things and they just fall off of them because all they can do is see from their own level. Now, listen to that phrase again. All you can presently do is think and understand from your present level of thinking. Therefore, when you're told about something higher than yourself, it means nothing to you. How can it? All you know is where you are, and someone says, look, sir, look, madam, you can be right in the middle of this mad world and be free of its insanity. And I mean it literally, and I mean it right down to the very close to the things that are bothering you every day. You know, they raise the taxes and the inflation goes up 10 times in 10 months. And you're growing older. All the things that bother you, I am telling you that you can see them from a higher level, and when you do that, they won't give you any concern whatever. Now, you can't understand what it means to live without concern, can you? Furthermore, you don't want to find out what it means, because that means you're going to have to take a long journey away from what you presently prefer, and that scares you. Imagine two men who are friends, and they go to work for a company that has one of these big tall office buildings, 80 stories high. Two men go into the office, and one man is assigned to the lower floor, and he phones the other man who's on a higher floor, and they have a telephone conversation. One man on the first floor, one man on the 80th. The man down below says to the other man on the telephone, he says, it's a terrible place we've come to work in. Outside there's cars and noise and exhaust fumes and smog. Buildings, I'm looking at a brick wall out my window. And the other man up there, he says, what are you talking about? It's not like that at all from where I am. From where I can see, it's, oh, that's beautiful country out there. I can see the trees and the lakes and the pretty streams and the shrubbery. And it's also quiet up here. It's so quiet up here, I can begin to feel myself, see myself, think, understand myself. It's so quiet up here. And the man down says, my friend must be going mad. I know what I am seeing. Look, as simple as illustration as that, it's a fact. Now, how are you going to get over that very severe problem? And it is a problem. You tell people that your anger is killing you. Your violence against truth is ruining you. The very thing that you think you're trying to save, you're wrecking by your resistance of it. How do you get through to people? Well, the first comment on that is you don't with most people. Very, very few human beings ever make it in this life. Why am I telling you this? Not to discourage you, but to jolt you out of your complacency and your feeling that you either already have it made, or by the time you hear the end of the lecture, everything will be different. You don't know how bad things are, but you can find out. And when you find out, that will give you the determination to say, I'm not going to miss one of those classes that they have several times a week around Southern California here. And instead of wasting my time in gossiping and drinking and going out with my stupid poker-playing friends, I'm going to stay home and find out what I'm doing here in this life. See, You have to do the work. You have to be the one who says, you're the man on the first floor, and your friend on the 80th floor says, it's beautiful out there, marvelous, the clouds, beautiful nature out there. And you're down on the first floor. He says, there must be something wrong with his mind. What's the matter with that mind? My friend is going crazy. And he keeps telling you that and keeps telling you that until you marvelously begin to doubt your own statements about the situation. You're beginning to question your own sanity. You're beginning to question your own level. And and you'll say something like, well, I hate to admit this, but instead of it being him that's batty, maybe it's me. Oh, I don't know. It has to be him. Most people go all their life, almost every human being you know, practically every human being you know, simply goes down to the end of their life denying what the man upstairs said because they don't want to leave their comfortable misery. You know, misery gives you something to do, doesn't it? Doesn't it give you something to feel? Doesn't it give you something to crab about? Look, you go anywhere, go to the supermarket, you check out at the supermarket, listen to people, listen to the insanity in the supermarket checkout stand. Crabbing about everything, blabbing. You watch this. You'll see how true it is. Next time you check out, you're always behind 7 or 8 people, aren't you? 20th in line. You watch the people in front of you. Look at their face. Marvelous study. It's better than a book. Well, not quite. Watch their faces. Watch what they. And you watch those idiots who, in the simplest things of life, they can't do things right. Here's what I'm talking about. And you've seen it. You stood there burning, huh? Everyone, they blab to the cashier, she's trying to get the price and all. They're blabbing in the air, talking about their fishing expedition to Mongolia or whatever it is. And you know, when I caught 10 fish, no, I think it was 8 fish. And the poor woman's trying to check all the people out, and you want them out of the way. She's blabbing about herself. And finally, all of a sudden she's shocked. Oh, let's see, I've got groceries. That means I have to give money. Money is in the purse. And she fumbles, you know. Human beings are so sick, they can't even pay attention to what they're supposed to be doing at the moment they're doing it. They simply cannot do it. It's pretty bad. Now, if you want to work, you want to go into these things, and you want to climb up to the 2nd floor, and then the 3rd floor, and finally to the 80th floor, and have the view for yourself. Climbing means effort, doesn't it? It means expended energy, doesn't it? You can't sit on that office chair and gaze out the window and crab all your life. It means you have to get out of that chair, walk out of the office, and start climbing. Oh, you're asking me to do something horrible. You're asking me to think a little bit. You're asking me to feel things in a new way, to see life in a new way. And so most of them just stay there and grow old and miserable and crabbier and wreck everything and wreck their children, wreck their spouse, wreck everyone they meet. Your level either curses the world or blesses it. And let me tell you, there are very few people who bless the world with their level of insight. Ready to climb? Right. Or you want to stay there and crab your way through the rest of your life? Look, all right, look around at your friends, whom you should get rid of as soon as possible, and see what they want. Didn't I describe them correctly? Haven't I just? You know I have. Now, do you still want to be a part of that level? Come on. All you're required to do is climb to one level at a time. Just go to the 2nd floor. That's fine. You know what the 2nd floor would represent? You coming to one of the meetings here in Southern California, if you live here. Find out where they have the meetings. There may be one right down the street here for all I know. Go down to that meeting and keep going to it. Buy the books. Go over and over them. If you're afraid to go out to a crowd, then go out to the crowd of the meeting and get acquainted with people. Don't stay with your old friends. Drop your old friends, because they have chosen to stay on that 1st floor. Now, there's one thing that you will come into that will be a great resistance to you getting out of the office and going on up, climbing on up, 2nd, 10th, and 15th floor. There's one thing, and it's called the fear factor. The fear factor. Not only are we lazy and want to stay on that 1st floor and just crab our lives away, but we're also afraid. Here's why. You live on the first floor of that office building, and you go out on the hall. The hall is horizontal, isn't it? And you know every other office, every other thing that goes on that very low first floor. There's a little snack shop down there, and there's an optometrist down there. Maybe he's an optimist too. The man who fixes glasses. You know everything that's on that floor. Familiar. Nothing is new, therefore nothing is challenging. And you look at that dark stairway down at the end of the hall, you look out, where does it go? Who's going to hurt me up there? Don't you know this is the world? What's up there? They're going to hurt me. Hurt you, man. You're hurting yourself. Look, please, you've got the exact opposite. Going up helps you, not hurts you. What hurts you is being your present idiotic self. Fear factor. You take a little child on one of these tunnel of horrors rides down at the amusement park. Parents take him on, and he's very scared, isn't he? The bats float down, the little mechanical bats float down, and the ghosts jump out, and the fires light up, and he gets terrified. The child grows up, and he goes into the tunnel of horrors as a young man. Grown-up young man. Doesn't scare him anymore. That's simply because he's grown up. Now, don't try to do anything with the exterior fear, those people that you're afraid of. Don't try to smile to them so that they be nice to you and things like that. You have to work where the terror is, and the terror is inside of you. That's where you have to work. But we tell you to face the fear, and you become afraid of that. Someday you will understand that all the fear inside of you is, you listen to me, it has no more reality than those mechanical bats and those lighted up ghosts that jump out in the tunnel of horrors. They are just as imitative, fake, false, just as no power at all to harm you, whatever. But you don't see this. What do you have to do? I'll tell you what you have to do. You have to go through that tunnel of horrors, not just a dozen times, but 50 times, 1,000 times, until there's something in you that looks at that bat flying down, looks at that bat, and instead of reacting with 100% fear, you look at the bat and you react with 99% fear and 1% of you that says, hey, I'm going to understand what you really are. And you go through it, and the next time, and the next 20 times, and each time your fear will fade a little bit until you understand that all your present fears, all your tensions and anxieties are simply mechanical bats. They're simply mechanical forces that have come into your life, which you have taken as being necessary, as being permanent, as being normal, and have helped you as appearing to be likable. And I told you why you take them as being likable, because they give you something to do with yourself, and you're afraid to go up those stairs. You're afraid to see that you're afraid to see something that is new, simply because you can't refer it back to your own past experiences. Well, now what do you think newness is? Something that is new is something that is not old. Now, which do you want? You can have your old fears if you want. You can have that, or you can have a new experience that will chase out the fears, but you can't have both. The majority of human beings, when they get to the stage where they can go through the bat cage again and begin to understand them, they go into imagination, and they get into the little cart that takes them through the tunnel of horrors. They get in that little wagon you get in to go on through. And you know what they do? As they go through and the bats are coming down and the ghosts are jumping out, they are terrified. And do you know what they do? They sing religious hymns. And they talk about, I am not afraid. And they say, I am saved. And they say, I am free. And they are devils. They're the real devils, because they have chosen that for themselves. And I'm warning you, It is nothing is easier than for you to get deceived by your neurotic, egotistical imagination. Nothing is easier for you to go wrong. And once you get hardened in your wrongness, nothing will be able to save you, because nothing will be able to get through to you. You'll come with a talk like this and you'll sneer at what you hear and you'll walk out because you are a hardened devil. Goodbye to you, thank heaven. I don't have to have anything to do with you. Now, if there are some of you here today who don't want that fate for eternity, you can have something different. Now you've been given a start, and now you have to take that start. If you ever feel miserable again, you have only one thing to do, to remember what you have heard here and say, I choose understanding of this unhappiness and confusion. I choose to understand it instead of to go along with it. Make that your choice. And you must keep in contact with truth in these books and these tapes, not that we sell them. I might as well tell you now to get that out of the way. No one here, none of these ladies, not myself, not Murray or Guy, nobody gets a penny out of all this. Every single one of us have paid all our expenses at the motel, at the gasoline, all that. Nobody gets a penny. So we're not saying it to get your money, but to tell you that do you know why we do this? Because this is what we love to do. We know, look, everyone in this room was in your chair one time. And we understand you thoroughly. We know everything, even the hostility, the hatred, the pretense, the wish to argue. And we also know that in some of you, there's this one little spark that says, please, please help me in spite of myself. Oh, you pray that prayer and you will be helped in spite of yourself.